the budget, has it done anything for you here in West Yorkshire? Give me a call. Love to chat. 0345 303 3333. Let's speak to Johnny Caddick. He's director at the Caddick Group, based here in West Yorkshire. Their headquarters in Wetherby. They acquire, develop, build and manage projects right across the UK. Johnny Caddick, good to speak. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Has it done anything for us here in West Yorkshire?
Well, there'll be some impact, I would imagine, from obviously the changes with the stamp duty, but it's very negligible, if to be honest with you. You know, in terms of I think it was the Office of Budget Responsibility talking about helping. When you look at the net differential, it will only help about 3,500 people across the country. So will that impact be felt? I don't think so. I mean, as a Leeds lad myself, I've been trying to promote the mayor for Leeds over the last few years, and I think having a voice on behalf of Leeds and behalf of the region would be really powerful in terms of lobbying for things like HS3, infrastructure improvements, and getting the voice of the region heard. So
when Chris tweets me to draw my attention to that message about us being the big loser because we've not got our act together on the mayoral front, you think that's a relevant point to make, do you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think when you have all these different smaller voices, I think if we get one voice, such as Andy Street in Birmingham, he's doing a fantastic job in lobbying central government.
He's the guy who used to run John Lewis, isn't he?
He is, absolutely. Very, very astute gentleman with a very good commercial brain on him. And he's managed to galvanise all the voices from the Midlands into one single voice. And that voice shouts a lot louder when it's talking to central government. I think some of the stats, he's been in front of Theresa May 3 or 4 times already within the last 12 months. It's things like that we need to see from a Yorkshire perspective, and especially from a Leeds and on behalf of the Leeds City region, and pushing the major points, pushing the infrastructure points, and doing some lobbying on behalf of everybody. What
about the wider, I know you work across a range of fields, retail, commercial, but also residential. The Chancellor talking about how many houses will be built, and we're looking ahead to the middle of the next decade, in other words, the 2020s there. Previous Chancellors have made promises about housing, and we're still having these conversations. But did that wash for you, Johnny?
Not particularly, no. You know, there's all sorts of talk about putting pressure on developers and construction firms who are land banking, and they simply aren't land banking. It's part of the planning process, and the difficulties actually bringing forward land post-planning. There's a lot of restrictions that are put by local authorities on developers.
Can I just stop you for people who don't understand? So land banking, that means buying up land but not actually developing it, does it?
The perception is that different property firms and developers will get a planning permission but not take forward schemes, and the government are looking at all the statistics why there's planning permissions given but schemes aren't moving on to site. And I think they did a review of this a few years ago, and it is actually the complexities of actually bringing a scheme forward following planning permission, all the difficulties that might be imposed by a local authority on a developer, whether it be from issues, BATs, newts, infrastructure, and then the complexities from a developer's position where you have to actually fund and construct the project.
But a lot of people say companies like yours get rich from developing, and therefore, for example, if you have to reuse some more troublesome land, as it were, but which because of its past is not a straightforward place to develop, that's surely better than, and this is a debate we've had even on this programme this week, wading into greenbelt land.
Yeah, I mean, we the greenbelt issue has always been very sensitive for a number of reasons, and people look to the greenbelt because it's easier to access than more complicated land that might have contamination issues. But when it comes to taking land forward, developers such as ourselves look at all sorts of options, and we work very closely with local authorities to bring forward a mix of tenure. And when it talks about affordable housing, one of the main ways you can deliver affordable housing is by bringing the private sector forward to develop open market sales, open market rental housing. And that was one of the big things we were upset about that the Chancellor didn't bring forward and emphasise more, is actually this issue with productivity, and productivity is about moving the workforce around the country.
And that is one of the problems. There's no denying it. We are, since the crash, and we're going back 9 years now, we have just not been moving forward in terms of productivity, and that is one of the reasons that the headlines this morning have been about bleak economic forecasts, rather than here's a Chancellor who managed to get a budget to just about please everybody in very trying circumstances. Mm.
But there are some good messages out there. I mean, we look at the regions and the regional cities. The regional cities are getting stronger. I think one of the most exciting statistics for me is the student retention rate. And when I mean that, I mean about the students who finish at Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham universities and the major cities and are staying back and actually saying after university they want to stay within those cities. I think there was a stat the other day, and it hasn't been released on Leeds' figures, but Manchester's got a 53% student retention rate now. That's up from in the mid-30s last year. So what might be one of the benefits is the regions in terms of actually benefiting from this Brexit scenario where the jobs are now coming back up to the regions. So there is a bit of light out there.
You're not sounding over-optimistic, though, Johnny. If you had to give him a mark out of 10, I mean, I asked, has it done anything for you here in West Yorkshire? You've found a few bits, but I have to say, it's, if you were marking him out of 10, it wouldn't be a great score. What are you going to give him?
I don't think he's got much that he could do, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I think it was a very vanilla. I don't think anything was actually new that was brought out. So what he had in the armoury, I don't think he could have done anything. I think it was a very beige 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. 5.
Oh, look at that. 5, 6 out of 10. Vanilla and beige, the two colours used to describe it by Leeds lad Johnny Caddick. Johnny, very good to speak. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. He's director at the Caddick Group, HQ in Wetherby. You'll have seen their name all over the place in West Yorkshire and further afield. They work across a variety of different sectors, as I mentioned, homes, business premises, retail premises as well. Interesting. A vanilla, beige budget, a man who didn't have a lot of room for manoeuvre. He's going to give it a 5 or possibly a 6 out of 10. The budget, has it done anything for you here in West Yorkshire? Love to speak. Here's the number.
Join the conversation.